everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of the Alder Hour. We have finally come of age, and we have come to Las Vegas to celebrate. Back for the second time in 7 weeks. We're here again, and Justin's here with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
And when did you get here?
I got in very late last night. Started super early this morning. The jet lag just really gets to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
You know more than anyone.
Well, I kind of got in on Sunday because that was the only flight I could get. And I had a really good night's sleep on Sunday. And Monday I woke up and I thought I'm fine. And then last night, I was at 4 a.m. My body thought it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. So it was all over for me. But hopefully I'll be all right tomorrow. So the real reason we're here, well, obviously we are celebrating the 21st episode. And thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to the show. But we're here for Unleash America. So we're in a great venue, Caesars Forum, which is towards the back of some of the casinos. You can see the kind of the big wheel that they've got and sort of various other things. And this is kind of the pre-day. So there's lots of people milling around. You can probably see them in the background. Lots of people behind the camera. And today's been like workshops and things and you know, various things like that. And the event starts in earnest tomorrow. But yeah, Justin, so you've been to Unleash before?
I have. This is my fourth time now, actually. Yep.
Cool. And what is different about it to the other conferences that you go to? What keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I think there are a few things that are different about it. This isn't the type of conference you go to where you get tactical advice on how to handle performance reviews in a remote world. This is a bit more sophisticated, more strategic. The speakers are experts in their fields and science and AI and psychology, and have analysts there and CHROs and tons of different experts that are speaking about their areas of interest, which are pretty exciting. So, for example, one of the sessions that I'm really interested in going to is a session on emerging HR trends in the HR tech space, where they'll have some very well-known analysts in the HR tech world speaking about their research and what they're finding from their customers too. And another one, and it's very heavy on AI, as you can imagine.
Absolutely.
But it isn't that generic AI. So, for example, one of the sessions that I'd also like to go to is AI beyond the bot.
Right.
And I found that really interesting because so often people just think of, today, for example, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I was in a session earlier today, and we were doing a hackathon, and one of the solutions was use AI to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, how are you deploying AI? In that situation, and so it's just, I think that's often a default, is we'll just use AI for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, I'm going to sort of share what I think about Unleashed. But before I do, I have to mention the rain, because it never rains in Vegas. And since we've been here, it's clear now. It's just been the worst rain I've ever seen. I think I brought it from Scotland with me. So apologies to everyone for that. But crazy
we
weather.
all blame you for that.
Crazy weather. Weather.
Yeah.
So Unleashed for me, I think Transform a few weeks ago, I think that's all about conversations. So just having some great conversations with people. Unleashed for me is all about the content. They always kind of knock it out of the park with the speakers that they have. Strategic AI is such a big theme this year, and there are academics and thought leaders and CHROs, and people really talking about what's the strategic implications of AI, how a company's implementing strategically, what's kind of going to happen. And it's a conversation you're not really getting in many other events. They tend to be sort of quite tactical or theoretical, and this is a great mix of that kind of strategy with people who are kind of doing it from a hands-on basis. So I'm really looking forward to the content. And my guilty secret is most conferences I go to, I never go to any of the sessions. But this one, I've got a list of things that I'm definitely going to attend. But tell us more about the session today. So as I say, it's all kind of workshops and things like that today. What went on in your session?
Right. Yes. So today is different. Today was their pre-conference workshops compared to tomorrow and Thursday, which will be the general sessions that you would be accustomed to attending. Today we joined a workshop that was basically a hackathon. It was really cool. They had HR practitioners in the room. They had talent acquisition leaders in the room. And each table, at first, each individual was responsible for coming up with a challenge they were experiencing, an aspiration of what they would want that solution to look like, and then they would pass it around the table, and each person would write a hack for them. And a hack in this situation isn't something that's going to be this long-term project like I'm going to implement an HRIS internationally.
Yeah.
It's something very simple. And I'll give an example in just a minute. So once we'd all done the individual work, then as a team, as a table, we decided on one problem with the aspiration and the hacks, and then brainstormed on what additional hacks we could incorporate into this project, essentially. Voted on the hack and then presented. And
cool.
I'm really excited to say that our table won, which is really cool.
Congratulations. And what was the idea?
So the problem was that during the onboarding process, new hires aren't getting the level of engagement that they need from internal teams.
Right. Okay.
So internal teams weren't showing up to meetings or weren't responding for X, Y, and Z. And so there was no accountability there, and it was really difficult for this company to really have a high excellence experience for these new employees.
Yeah.
So the aspiration, of course, is that all internal team members are engaged, including the new hires. And then the hack was very simple. So again, it wasn't this broad, system that you're putting in place. It was, hey, how about we use Slack to automate tasks so that these tasks are then prompted to the different internal users.
Yeah.
You can even prompt new introductions between an employee and perhaps a peer mentor or somebody like that. And then there's accountability there because these tasks are automated, they're in writing, people need to follow through. So that ended up winning, which was great. And I think it's really important for people to consider, hey, sometimes you're working on a challenge and you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Maybe you need to very progressively go through different hacks that you can put in place, essentially, to start chipping away at this challenge that you're having, and it makes it so much more manageable.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. I think that's. I wish I'd gone to that session now. Actually, I didn't quite make it over in time. So it's. I think sometimes conferences like this can be sort of quite overwhelming for people when they're sort of coming for the first time. What am I supposed to do? Where do I go? What do I see? What would your advice be to, any HR practitioners who are here or who are going to, another big conference like this? Because it is quite a big conference.
Yes, it is a big conference. So as an HR practitioner, what I would recommend, or, a TA practitioner, leader as well, what I would recommend doing is, if you haven't done this already prior to coming to the conference, set kind of a list of goals that you have out of this conference. What are you hoping to achieve? Who are you hoping to meet? What sessions are you targeting? And those should be very specific to objectives that you have at your organization. You want to tie that back, and make sure that you're maximizing the most possible on the experience that you're having here and the sessions that you're listening to. So once you've done that, it's all about easy execution at that point. Unleash has a really great app that allows you to build your own schedule based on the agenda that has been set forth, which is great. And it also allows you to connect with other individuals too. So you can go through the entire list of attendees, and if I see Matt is on that list, and I want to meet him, I can just go ahead and send a quick message and even recommend a certain time and a certain location to meet. So I'd highly recommend that HR practitioners leverage that either with peers or even HR tech vendors, just to learn more about the newest and greatest tech that's out there today. There's so many ways that you can take advantage of a conference like this. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just think it's just really important for people to come to events like this because there's just so much information out there. There's so much technology. There's so much discussion around the technology and people arguing with each other on LinkedIn about, what's up and what's down. And I think that over the course of a couple of days like this, you can see different opinions in a very structured way and really kind of, get the information you need to kind of make up your own mind, basically. So I think it's kind of really great from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think when you think too about the projects that you're working on, like let's say, for example, I'll talk about Aaron for a minute. Let's say that you have a really poor performing employee referral program and you are trying to figure out what you can do to improve it. I would highly suggest looking at HR tech vendors out there like Aaron that would be able to kind of help, I think, in a very easy way, fulfill some of these challenges that you're facing from an employee referral perspective. So take advantage of the vendors that are here too. You can learn a lot, and they very well might end up being part of your project. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm going to carry on talking to you in a second, but I'm going to but we've got a guest. We've got two guests. So I'm going to kind of invite them up. In fact, I think you're going to have to go and get them because it's all just
it's very active
it's all
here
just
right
going
now.
on. It's all kind of very noisy. So we'll kind of see if we can beckon them in. Are they coming in? Here we go. So they're kind of setting up the whole kind of party reception thing. Around us, so it's all slightly crazy, isn't it? But anyway, I will. I will see you again later. Get me a drink. But, cool. Hi, Virginia. Come on in. Welcome to a fairly chaotic live episode of the Order Hour. It was like this when we did it in Vegas last time. We've got music. We've got
getting
dancing,
ready for drinks.
Drinking,
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. So anyway, introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
So I'm Virginia Tirado. You may have heard me before in one of your podcasts
and around the show not too long ago,
around the blog.
Yeah.
Recently branched out from being in-house to become a founder. So these days, living the life of a founder.
Exciting.
My co-founder and I, Alex Dengler, have just launched Reku.co, and it is a talent solutions firm supporting VC-backed companies that are AI native in the SaaS space. And ideally, we want to just partner with them to help them scale. That's what we're passionate about.
Cool. I've got a really important first question to ask you. So it's very Vegas. So last night we all went to see RuPaul's Drag Race live.
Awesome.
At the Flamingo, which is amazing. Who was your favorite drag queen?
I think Carrie Berry.
Okay, cool.
I did really like her impersonation of Britney Spears. And second, Safira Crystal.
Yeah. Okay,
I think she was awesome.
Yeah. No, it was really good fun, actually. It was really good fun. And, just some of the things you can get up to in Vegas when you're at a conference. But let's go back to your business. So, who do you work with? Tell us exactly kind of what you sort of do for people.
So we have, we've recently launched, right? We launched at the beginning of March at HumanX here in Vegas, and then at Transform, where we met casually. So this is my third trip to Vegas in the last 2 months, which is quite a lot considering I live in London, like you. But I think that we want to be able to offer to our customers, to our founders, to the businesses we're working with, the type of solutions we didn't have available to us when we were in-house. Both Alex and I have worked for big tech names. I've worked for Amazon, AWS, Zalando, Oracle. He's worked for Uber, Google. We've done massive expansions internationally and have helped companies scale. And I think the biggest challenge for us was always finding someone that actually understood where we were in the journey and gave us the flexibility to adapt to the work we needed done at the time.
Right, okay.
Even though we're working for big names, we still had to manage a budget and do different things. And today, we want to offer two different types of products. Okay. One product is sort of more fractional and solution based, so that if you need help evaluating or assessing tech or figuring out what a strategic workforce plan can look like and so on, and you can't really afford to have a head of TA, we can help you with that.
Okay.
But then we want to also do the retained search aspect. And when we say retained search, working in leadership, there's a lot of people out there doing contingency, but I think that when you are making such an important decision as to maybe hiring your first founding engineer, you want to make sure that you're not leaving it up to luck and just going through whatever has been tossed at you, but actually get someone that wants to understand your brand, your culture, figure out what exactly are you trying to achieve and what would be the best talent that can match that opportunity to scale together with you.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're doing today.
Cool.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Fantastic. There we are.
You know me. I'm a Bubbles girl.
Cheers. There we go. Thank you very much.
Alex, say hi to the camera.
It's Points and Pints all over again. It's the bit where we drink and discuss the news of the week. So I've got a question for you, actually, more generally about talent acquisition. So before we started doing this, I was having a conversation just over there in that corridor with someone about TA strategy and what's going on at the moment, particularly in like large tech firms. So, we're seeing large tech firms laying TA teams off completely. It just seems kind of like very chaotic out there. Are people working to a plan? What's the state of TA in sort of technology at the moment?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and it ties back to the podcast we shared where we talked about the evolution of the talent acquisition function.
Yeah.
We are at an exciting point in time, and in my view, if you're hoping for the big roles to come your way or for the big hiring and recruitment to happen, I just don't think it's going to come back. I think it's going to come back in a very different way.
Yeah.
And sadly, it is something that we need to figure out, because a lot of the junior talent perhaps will fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And a lot of the medium seniority talent may also eventually fall off the crack, and then you would end up hiring more junior people and more senior people, but who do the junior people learn from?
Yeah, exactly.
And it is almost like a vicious circle, right? Like, I don't know what's going to come before or after, but I think that if we want to make things happen in a strategic way as talent leaders, we need to evaluate, how are we augmenting the capacity of our teams? How are we bringing value? Who are we partnering with? So when we're not in the room, people aren't saying, hey, but we've got a bunch of recruiters here. Do we still need them?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it is about educating our stakeholders, about educating ourselves about where do we want to add value and how do we stay relevant.
Yeah.
We've been there before. I mean, we were there during COVID. I think this is different. I think this is not going to go away. I don't think that we're in a place where we should all be panicking.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we do need to have important conversations at the moment.
Yeah, it just feels like there's a big kind of change going on, and it just feels like TA isn't really part of the conversation, and it should be. And I think it also probably means that there are companies like laying off TA teams are going to end up spending a fortune on agencies, and maybe their big AI strategy is not going to kick in as quickly as they thought it was. So it just seems to be a missing conversation at the moment, which I think is going to cause problems for everyone.
I agree. And if anybody is listening to this and you are a esteemed colleague in the TA space, don't wait for the invitation to join the room and the conversation. Go out, talk to your CHRO, talk to your founders, your stakeholders, and try to assess, what are the bigger challenges they're facing, and how are you going to evolve so that maybe you can do more, have a broader role where you are looking at talent holistically. TA for many years has always been about that attract and hire piece, but we weren't necessarily very involved in the develop and retain piece. I think that, we were just earlier at the Talent Summit here listening to a lot of talent folks, and so much of that conversation has to do with, keeping talent, retaining talent, but like upskilling and having talent ready for the future. If you as a TA leader are not part of that conversation, I think that's what's going to hurt you and your teams.
No, 100%. And obviously, I was saying to Jocelyn a second ago, the big theme looking at the agenda for this event is AI from a very strategic perspective. What does that look like now? How do you think that is going to really sort of change TA over the next sort of 6 to 12 months? What's kind of happening out there? What are you building, for example? What's your kind of approach to it?
We're actually advising a really cool startup. They're around here. The startup's name is Way Faster, and they do realistic interview automation, so they can help manage your inbound. And what they have found, and they've got a lot of data to show this, is how much higher the Net Promoter Scores are from a candidate experience.
Wow.
And yet, when you have agile departments and companies that are AI native, they're easily getting in and attracting them. When it's time to talk to our colleagues in the more enterprise bigger setup, what you find is that there's a lot of apprehension and caution, and I understand you have to be careful with the compliance and data protection and all of that, but these vendors are very responsible. They know what they're doing and they're getting all the certifications, and yet we're still thinking about AI as something scary, something that, legal and everyone needs to be involved, and not necessarily doing a favor or putting excuses out there saying, the candidate experience, candidates don't want to talk to AI. It's like, well, actually, have you really done the research? Have you done a trial? And so when you ask me,
have you been a candidate
recently? Like, so I think that if you ask me where we're heading, is like, it's like when Booking came along, right? And when all of these disruptors, Uber, so on, like, change will happen, and if you are not embracing it, it's not going away. We've been spending time with a lot of VCs and also heads of talents in VCs, and they're telling us, they're still investing in blockchain, they're investing in, in crypto, all of these other, Web 3.3, but what they're seeing is that the AI impact is, it's just starting, and there's going to be so much more. If we want to see how it impacts our space, we need to own it. We need to go out there and stop making excuses because we don't know. Educate ourselves.
And I think that Uber, Booking.com, Airbnb, they're kind of great examples because they're technologies that came into a very established space, totally disrupted it, and the old guard is still there, but very much, transformed and dealing with a kind of a much sort of smaller market and working differently. And I think that's kind of what we're going through now. It's like we can't look at this through the old lens of talent acquisition about how we've always done things, because it fundamentally changes that. And that's
and at the speed of light. This is a bit like, maybe we had time to react in previous changes, but if you think about where we've come in the last 5 years, even in the last, 3 years with AI, our world has changed drastically, and many of us still haven't embraced it enough. So I'm excited because I think that opens the door for people like me and you who are looking at opportunities and want to be AI native from the beginning and adopt the technology and not be scared of it. Think about how we can shape that future, be part of the conversation. I want to work with the next generation of innovators as well. And
100%. I think I suppose the other thing that so a couple more questions for you. We're telling people to go out and companies are telling people to go out and experiment with AI and do all this kind of stuff. I saw the email from the CEO of Fiverr that came out, and he was basically telling all of his employees that your time is numbered as far as your jobs. This isn't specifically about layoffs, but it's like that's where it's going. Go and educate yourselves. But what's missing, and I think this is missing in TA as well, is almost the bit that tells people how to educate themselves. Because I think that go and experiment with AI, go and find someone who does it. The thing about AI, a lot of the tools that are out there, if you don't know their capabilities and you don't know how to use them properly, you can get a very, very fake idea of what they actually can and can't do. And that just concerns me that people don't have that kind of guidance to actually really do a deep dive and really kind of understand what's going on.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. That is a massive opportunity. So if you are a TA leader and you're hearing this, what are you doing to go and talk to your head of L&D or your CHRO and figure it out? Like, how do we map it? I mean, we have amazing partners that we've used in the EdTech space, right? And I'm like, for example, social talent. I'm really close with the social talent guys. And we've had this conversation about, we've used that platform as a learning platform, and we've used it to upskill our recruiters. Well, maybe it's time to think about how we use, EdTech to help us upskill. Like the pathways. We know we have absolutely amazing platforms out there that can help you deploy training at scale. How do we actually come in at this moment where it's relevant and raise your hand and say, this is how we're going to add value. Versus saying, well, I don't know how to do it. I mean, obviously, we're all a bit scared and maybe overwhelmed at time with everything that's coming our way, but it is about still showing up and doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking that responsibility, but I just think that there isn't quite enough support for that. Virginia, thank you very much for talking to me.
Always a pleasure.
Have a brilliant Unleash, and if you would just swap microphones with Jocelyn,
then
I
will take my bubbles with me. Cheers.
There we are. Cheers.
See you around.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you.
As usual.
And Jocelyn's coming back. She's just grabbing the mic.
Cheers.
So you've been outside of the party.
I have.
How is it?
Yes, I have. Very fun. Lots of good networking. I've already seen a few friends out there, which is really great. Got my drink, which I never have on our show ever.
There we are. You finally got a drink. There we are.
Yeah, I'm always drinking water or something lame like that. So now I've got my glass of wine.
Awesome. And meeting interesting? Any interesting conversations so far?
Well, most
Still
of them
early
were,
days.
most of them were with Evan. So obviously not interesting at all. Evan runs Purple Acorn. Actually, you know something really fun? There's an HR practitioner that I've known for a while. He's actually a customer of ours now.
Okay.
And as it happens, also did a joint webinar with me last week.
Okay.
He's from the DC area, so am I. We've never met in person before, and I just met him right now.
The power of coming to conferences.
Yes.
It's kicking off outside. I want to go and get another drink. I really like this song. So I think we should just leave it here. And if you're at Unleash, come and say hello to us. If you're not coming, you can still turn up tomorrow. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to Virginia for being a great guest. That's the end of another Alder Hour. This is Matt Alder, clocking out.